It would just figure my neighbor would start mowing his lawn as soon as I start recording. Shut up! At the time of writing this script, I have seen the Mario Brothers movie 4 separate times. The first time I went with my 3 best friends, all of whom are pretty massive nerds like me, and it was a crowded theater of mostly young kids and adults in their mid-30s who, they probably grew up with these games. Second time I went, it was with my 3 younger siblings, none of whom really grew up with much of the Mario influence, but they're all big film nerds and geeks, so the energy was kind of similar. The third time I went was with my older sister and my nieces and nephews who just recently got introduced to the world of Mario via Super Smash Bros., Mario Kart, and Mario Party, vis-a-vis their aunts and uncles who are into the same things. The fourth time that I went was literally by myself at a local theater a little ways away from me where I knew the crowd was going to be pretty damn small. And I was correct. I actually was the only person in that movie theater, which is ironic because it's probably the nicest movie theater in the area that I live, but it's always empty depending, like if you know the right theater, like auditorium to go to, it's always empty. Now, what I found watching this glorified commercial, artistic representation of geek fandom, 4 different times in varying circumstances with different levels of audience engagement, is that the Mario movie is a raucously fun time with the right crowd. But on its own and without that engagement, it comes off as an incredibly rushed, bare bones film with really nothing interesting to say, not much interesting visuals to really look at, humor that only really lands when in a group, and a series of voice acting additions and acting that just drag down the experience.
Shut the fuck up. Right in, Shut the fuck up.
Now, before you lambast me, none of this is to say the film is bad. Just that we need to be more realistic about calling this film a masterpiece or a game changer. It is neither of those things. And you know what? That is perfectly fine by most of us.
You know what you guys have plenty of? Mario. This ain't Mario. Yeah, it looked like they looked very enthusiastic, honey. I think we'll be eating this month.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie picks up pretty quickly, actually. This is something you will see repeated throughout this review. Bowser is on his way to the Ice Kingdom, where he lays siege to the Penguin Palace and gains possession of the Superstar, this film's version of a MacGuffin. Within those first 5 to 10 minutes, there's a bit of drama, a handful of jokes, character establishment, and the inciting incident, and you might notice something right away, even though we've barely just started this fucking video. This film feels like it cannot wait to blitzkrieg through its roughly 90-minute runtime with all the speed of a Rainbow Road speedrunner. And from there, we're transported to the real world in Brooklyn, New York, where Mario and Luigi watch their newest commercial, reminiscent of that awesome intro from the live-action film back in the day. You guys know the one I'm talking about. And afterwards, they run into the not-so-subtle stab at Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm bad, and that's good. I will never be good, and that's not bad.
Who basically sums up the entire film's dramatic core by telling Mario that he's small and that he'll always be a small little nobody who's also a loser, doesn't make any money, before Sigma striding out of the pizzeria like he can't decide between whether or not the pizza he just wolfed down in like one bite is about to slide out between his butt cheeks or if he's on his way to chest day at the gym. Whatever the case, this dramatic conflict is carried through to one of the following scenes where Mario's dad says something similar as Spike does, cementing Mario's desire to do something big and grand, something to prove everyone wrong. It's very safe storytelling. Now that chance comes when Brooklyn begins flooding from a bad pressure valve under the street, and the 2 brothers fail to fix it and find themselves traveling down the underworld depths of New York, which at this point might as well be an allegory for Dante's Inferno considering the cesspit that is New York society, but I digress. They come across one of those famous green pipes that you use throughout the universe of Nintendo, and they're given the big fat suck where they are whisked away to separate worlds, and Luigi, being the speedrunning hacker that he is, immediately gets sent to the boss phase of Bowser's homeworld, while Mario continues to be a beta cuck and goes to World 1-1 to start the quest legitimately because he's clearly never played a video game before. Right away, Mario runs into Toad, who then introduces him to Princess Peach, who is working on devising a plan to defeat Bowser. And after force-feeding Mario multiple mushrooms because Peach is both a serial masticator as well as an ableist fatphobe, Mario nearly beats the training course that has little to no impact on the rest of the movie, but hey, it's a fun reference to Super Mario Maker and has a couple of funny gags, including probably being like the only other animated movie I've seen to use I Need a Hero in a genuinely fun way outside of Shrek 2, which is hilarious. But even though Mario continues to prove he's a giant normie who has to constantly remind himself that A equals jump, Peach brings him along anyway, and they're off to the land of Kong, where Peach says she has a plan to win over the Kong army, a plan that she doesn't bother to share with anyone else, and a plan that I'm fairly certain she didn't actually have considering the following events and considering the way the story is written. So in the meantime, on the other side of the fucking multiverse, Luigi gets chased by Dry Bones, Shy Guys, and Bowser, sings a song about Peach.
Peaches, 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 peaches. No!
And then they reach the land of Kong on the other side, and Nintendo and Illumination want to remind you that they spent a shitload on this film's budget, and they play Take On Me for literally no other reason than funny and semi-relatable meme song that most people will recognize, I Lamau. And then we're introduced to Cranky Kong, who seems like they really want to make a bunch of jokes about Jewish stereotypes, but they ended up cutting it all out and replacing it with nothing, because once again the pacing to this series of scenes is so breakneck it might as well be called a montage. Mario fights Donkey Kong, DK laughs because we all need to know that this is indeed Seth Rogen and not the real DK. I mean, I never would have guessed personally. Method acting at its finest, like Daniel Day-Lewis who. Meanwhile, Bowser tortures Luigi, and then puts him in prison because it turns out Peach isn't a size queen and prefers a bit of kielbasa to Bowser's down B. We're introduced to the second best character outside of Shy Guy, which is this little Luma bro.
There's no escape. The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
Whoa. And since Rosalina's fine ass is nowhere to be seen, he's only the second best. Mario builds a Mario Kart, where my buddy Josh points out that he's pretty sure this was just them adding another scene because they had a few million left in the budget, and they were like, hey, we need to use Thunderstruck as the montage track, which fits about as well as Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. We then get the Mad Max Fury Road if it was developed and directed as an ad for Fruit Loops scene, which is actually pretty fucking awesome, including fun little one-take scene on the Rainbow Road itself. Mario and Donkey Kong die. They get swallowed by that big eel from, Super Mario 64, the one that gave a lot of us thalassophobia as children. Peach in her baddie outfit bricks up Toad and heads back to the Mushroom Kingdom to regroup. Mario and Donkey Kong successfully surpass their thalassophobia fears after having a little bit of trauma dumping. Peach pretends to marry Bowser to appease his adopted Patrick Bateman personality, and then wrecks her own wedding because there ain't no one man enough for Anya Taylor-Joy, except for Alexander Skarsgård, but I mean, like, look at this fucking Chad. Anyway, Donkey Kong and Mario beat the shit out of a bunch of Koopas and Goombas, they rescue Luigi, they help Peach defeat the rest of the army, but then before Mario can prevent 9/11 the sequel, he inadvertently nukes the multiverse, which hopefully kills off the MCU for good. But oh no, this means the final fight has to take place in Brooklyn, where he and Luigi get the superstar, they fuck up Bowser like he was set to CPU-1, and then put him in a cum jar where he'll remain until the inevitable sequel. Laughs are had, catharsis is sort of felt, Peach gives Mario the fuck me eyes, and the movie ends. Why did I just explain this entire movie to you in just the first section? To emphasize how fucking short this entire film feels. It is like watching a compilation on YouTube of Mario cutscenes over like a 10-year period, and it's so intent on getting through its runtime that there were moments where I felt like I had the mental whiplash from just how quick it wanted to get things over with to move on to the next scene. It's not a drama, it's maybe a comedy? Partway musical and like 1/10 montage. Like, it gets the job done, but is that really enough?
And stand up for what he knows. I don't need your trophy, so you go. I just wanna tell you all, go yourself.
Look, I get that people love that it's a quick breeze through a handful of fun references and infectious enthusiasm and desire to just play it safe as possible, but that doesn't really forgive just how ham-fisted some of these moments feel and how ADHD-riddled the entire script feels. Like, remember how I mentioned the first 10 minutes of setup feels like it tells way too many jokes? It's not really because there's a lot of jokes at first, it's because they are delivered at such a constant pace that it feels like you're supposed to be laughing at the same time that another joke is already being delivered. This is mostly because the joke process in Mario is setup, delivery. There's nothing in between that. It wants to get to the punchline faster than any movie I have ever seen. There's no time between them to let them sink in, and it gets pretty irritating after the first few times. Honestly, the only times I can think of where the comedy is actually given time to breathe is the dungeon scenes with the Luma, and honestly, that kind of feels like that's about it, really. There's no slowing down this movie. It's all let's a go. Like, I get it. It's supposed to be for kids. But the fact that there's no emotional stakes, like, whatsoever, there's no interesting storytelling, there's no characterization to speak of, and the surrounding comedy shell is so constrained to fit within the runtime that it feels like suffocating just brings down the whole package. And none of this is really helped by the fact that outside of this movie, animation is kind of in its rebirth stage right now, and by direct comparison of its distant and immediate rivals, it feels dated despite being brand fucking new.
Not quite my tempo. Here we go. 5, 6, and...
Allow me to wax poetic for this last section before we conclude. I understand that not everything has to have depth. Not every piece of art has to be about an existential dread of life, death, friendship, love, loss, blah blah blah. I know. Sometimes we just need entertainment for entertainment's sake. But to ignore the blatantly obvious point that entertainment is immediately disposable, it makes the execution of Super Mario Bros. Feel a little bit cheap. Despite its obviously expensive production value, let's talk about the production value real quick. I love that the art style was so faithful to the games. Every character model, world design, and overall vibe of the modeling just screams Nintendo, and I loved it. I don't know that I loved the Pixar x Nintendo marrying of realistic visuals, neutral lighting, and hyper-realistic detailing. There were moments that felt genuinely too close to that Uncanny Valley vibe that I found myself kind of scrunching up my face at the screen thinking, why did you do that? Like in one moment where you're looking at goofy-ass General Toad laying out a battle plan on a massive map, the next you're looking at this incredibly detailed shot of sunlight streaming through Peach's hair, gleaming off her crown and cascading off her dress, and it just looks off. Not badly animated or textured, but like there's just a combination here that wasn't really planned all the way through. In an age where we got the bad guys, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, Pinocchio, Suzume, and Across the Spider-Verse, as well as the upcoming TMNT reboot, all back to back, shows that a lot of studios are aware of the changing winds in the animation landscape, and they're letting artists get visually creative and risky with their design choices, expressing different and engaging art styles that bring a distinct flavor to their projects, where when you see them, you immediately know the artists were allowed to, well, create art. And if there's one corporation on the planet that loves to shit on artists more than Letterboxd or EA, it's gotta be Nintendo. Don't do that shit here. I just would have liked more visual variety than, oh hey, yep, this is absolutely Illumination borderline AI right here. It's just boring at this point. There's better things you can do. Speaking of boring, good lord, this story is so behind the times that it feels like it belongs in the same 90s era the live action one came out in.
That doesn't make sense.
I fucking know. It's not about having a good story. It's about having fun and being engaging with all ages and generations in a mutual coming together of sheer fun and nostalgia. To which I say, why can't it do that while also telling a good story and having unique characters? The Lego Movie did this, while also having an insanely unique animation style and an absolutely baller attention to detail with its comedic timing and world building. If a movie that came out a decade ago can be doing that, why can't a movie with twice the budget, the same development time, and the same widespread audience? Just because it's true to say that this film is about having fun and appealing to younger audiences doesn't automatically negate the critique that other animated projects had the same agenda yet executed on it much more effectively, that they are still talked about today with love and admiration. I don't think this film will age or fossilize quite that well.
Sugar Boy is the next Mario, but he's not Mario.
He said he really needs help with his homework, so I need you to go talk to
your
other
son. A whole factory of puzzles to solve.
Honey.
I don't hate this movie. As a matter of fact, I low-key kind of love it. Even after 4 separate viewings in the span of like a 3-week period, I absolutely love that this film managed to bring together so many generations of viewers with some incredibly memorable theater-going engagement moments. I loved Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Jack Black, Charlie Day, and most of the supporting cast like Michael Keegan-Key. There's a handful of funny moments, some brilliantly animated scenes, and a healthy dosage of nostalgia that feels like it's just trying to let you enjoy it and not forcing you to love it. I can appreciate all of those things and walk away from a quadruple helping of mushrooms and peaches and still yearn for something more long-lasting and impactful. For every Jack Black love song, I was reminded of Death from Last Wish. For every training montage of Mario, I was reminded of the heists in Bad Guys. For every so relatable OMG nostalgia bait joke, I was reminded of basically the entire Lego Movie. For every attempt to be dramatic having failed, I was reminded of Into the Spider-Verse, where it achieved dramatic excellence at such a level that not only most animated films fail at, but most live-action art house films can't even hope to achieve. Mario may have dominated the box office and cemented itself as a financial risk that yielded reward, but that still doesn't excuse the bare-bones attempt to generate a storytelling shell around a glorified commercial that will rake in so much merchandise money that Miyamoto's probably swimming in cash at this point. I love it, but I hated it. I adored it, but I loathed it. It's everything I wanted, yet everything I feared. This was my review for the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Should you see it? Yeah. But don't pretend it's anything more than the sum of its parts and that it isn't some ultimate collector's edition Lego set, because it's more like the 200-piece Star Wars set that gets re-released every year but gets more expensive by like $10 increments every single time. But even then, it's still a Lego set, and so it still brings joy, a smile, and a memory worth sharing. And that is how I feel about the Super Mario Bros. Movie.